If you want to improve battery life on a Motorola Edge 60 Fusion, first of all we can go to settings, and of course we're gonna go to battery, as this is the main settings section where we can improve the battery life. First and foremost, we can use the battery saver. Although we don't have to use it all the time, it is recommended to use it from time to time, at least the standard version. You can also create a schedule that will automatically turn on a battery saver, for example, when the battery drops to 20%. Besides that, we can also automatically turn off at 90%. So for example, when you are charging your phone, then at 90%, when it reaches 90%, it will disable the battery charging. So it is definitely worth considering enabling this option. We can also enable or make sure that this option is enabled, the reduce battery drain when inactive. Besides that, we have the charge boost option, which is fast charging, and some people consider fast charging to have a negative effect on the battery due to quicker battery aging. However, if you don't think so, if you believe that it doesn't have that much of an impact, then of course we can turn it on. So it's up to personal preference whether you want to have it enabled or not. This will definitely help you charge your battery faster, but of course the device may heat up in the meantime because of it. So keep that in mind. Besides that, we also have the background apps manager, which should also be enabled, I believe. This app or this feature allows you to pretty much restrict the excessive battery usage by apps. Over here we can also go to apps in order to find out which apps are allowed to be working all the time in the background and apps which should not be allowed. Of course, you can choose by yourself which apps should be in one of these two lists. And there is also the smart background use, which is pretty much something in between. The phone can decide by itself when it is recommended to disable the background use for the specific app, especially if the app is using lots of, it consumes lots of power. Then of course, in those scenarios, it will be restricted. However, in other cases, of course, it will be kept to run in the background. However, like I said, you can manually decide which apps should be should be allowed to use the battery all the time when they are running in the background, of course. Besides that, we also have several optimizing options, such as the optimized charging, which is especially useful if you have a pattern when you are charging the battery, meaning that, for example, if you always charge your battery at night when you are going to sleep, then you plug your phone, then it is recommended to actually use this optimized charging. This allows you or the phone to keep the battery at 80% until you are about to unplug the charger. So this is why pattern is crucial, because based on that pattern, the phone will know in advance when you are about to unplug the charger, and this helps the phone to keep the battery at 80%, which is the most optimal way, and then 1 hour before it will let the charger to charge the battery to 100%. However, if you do not have a specific pattern, if you charge your phone in different times, different hours, etc., then you don't really need to use it, because, well, frankly, this feature probably won't work at all. However, there's also the overcharge protection, which is pretty similar, except for the fact that we have the 80% limit enabled all the time. And you may be wondering, why is it exactly 80%? And this is because most of the smartphones nowadays, if not all of them, have the, or in other words, the optimization is between 20 and 80%, meaning that the battery works the best when it is between 20 and 80%. So when the battery drops to 20%, it is the best time to start charging, and it is the best time to stop charging when we have 80%. So this is why we have this limit. Keep in mind that it is 80%. So if you use the automatic battery saver over here, if you have this schedule, then at 90%, or when you have this option turned off at 90%, then of course it won't work ever, because you won't be able to reach 90%. Just an information. Besides that, we have the adaptive battery option, which allows you to limit, or in other words, the battery is limited for infrequently used apps. So your phone will learn how you use apps over time, which is also worth enabling in general. And I think that's about it in the battery saving. Besides that, we also have different, for example, display options that could also be enabled or disabled in order to improve the battery life. Some of these features definitely help you to keep the battery for a little bit longer, such as the adaptive brightness or the automatic screen brightness. In that case, of course, if you use the same brightness level, especially if it's a high brightness level all the time, then the battery will be drained much quicker. So consider enabling adaptive brightness. Besides that, we also have the screen time, which I believe, there we go, here it is, the screen timeout. And in this case, of course, it is recommended to use 15 or 30 seconds. You may want to use adaptive, attentive display. This might be your preferred choice. However, of course, it is actually recommended, if we are talking about improving battery life, it is recommended to turn this option off. It is just better to just simply tap on the screen when it is about to time out. Now, another thing is, of course, the display refresh rate. I know we are supposed to use the most out of our phone, so 120 Hz is always the way to go. However, as a result, we have higher battery consumption. Instead of forcing 120 Hz to use it all the time, we can switch to automatic, which allows the phone to drop to 60 Hz from time to time in order to optimize the battery consumption. However, like I said, I know the smooth screen or smoother animations are really great, and me personally, I wouldn't actually switch to automatic. I think I prefer to have 120 Hz all the time, even if it means that my battery is draining quicker. But it is of course worth knowing that this option also has quite a bit of impact on the battery life. And besides that, we have the dark theme over here. If you use dark theme, you use less battery, simple as that. So if you don't like the dark theme, you can also try to use a schedule, so you can automatically turn on dark theme at night, for example, or during your custom time and that you can select by yourself. And the last but not least, the last option that I want to mention over here in this video is the always on display, which also has an impact on the battery. In the home and lock screen settings, we can go to the lock screen settings, and then over here we have sleep display, which we can disable in order to save the battery as well. So I think these are all things that we can do in order to improve the battery life. Of course, you don't have to do everything that I had shown you in this video. These are only suggestions that you can use in order to improve the battery life, but that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and see you in my next videos. Bye!